What do you know about ThruLines? Well, today I'm going to show you what ThruLines are and how they're created, how you can get ThruLines if you're not already seeing them, and how to navigate through them. As I finish, I'll be showing you a specific case in my own family. And then if you want to know more, there'll be a part 2 where I will go through multiple case studies. Let's get started. Let's look at how ThruLines work. ThruLines looks at your DNA matches. Here, for example, is my dad, JRS, and one of his matches, Harriet. And you can see right here that they share 59 centimorgans of DNA. But ThruLines doesn't care how much DNA you share with somebody. It is not verifying that a relationship it's suggesting makes sense for that amount of DNA. It just says, are you a DNA match? Well, let's look at your tree because you have to have a tree to have ThruLines. And look at your matches trees and other people's trees and see if we can find some connection between you. So again, it really doesn't care if these are the right answers or not. It's just trying to figure out an answer or a hypothesis. So here we have Harriet. Here we see Harriet's tree. On the left, it's predicting that JRS and Harriet could be third cousins through JRS, my dad's, great-great-grandparents, James Merrill and Nancy Waldron. And so these two people are in my dad's tree, or in my tree. Now it's going to look at Harriet's tree, other people's tree if needed, and try to find some connection. And so it found it through this William Merrill. Now I actually have William spelled out, Merrill, as a son of James Merrill and Nancy Waldron on my tree. So Harriet doesn't have them, but it doesn't matter. It just put those pieces together and said, this could be the connection. Now, it's very important to keep in mind that this doesn't necessarily mean this is the connection, but that's how ThruLines form. Now, Ancestry has a page explaining how you can get ThruLines, and we have these points right here. First, you have to take an AncestryDNA test. Then it says you need to choose to see and be seen by your DNA matches. Let's take a quick look at that. Now, this is my page. I clicked on my profile picture right here, and then on account settings. Then I went to DNA, and then I clicked on my name, Dana Leeds, and this is where I find out more about this test. Now, this is where we get some key things about our DNA test. As we scroll down, we can see that I am linked to Dana Renee Stewart, that's my name, in this specific tree. And so you can make sure that you're attached to the correct tree and you're attached to yourself. Here we have visibility and it says DNA matches are on. You need to have that on. You need to have your DNA matches to be visible to see ThruLines. Here you can turn this off and on. Now back to the how to get ThruLines. It says you need to link your family tree, which I just showed you how. Make sure your linked family tree is either public or private but searchable. If you've created a tree that is not searchable, then you will not be able to see ThruLines. It says you need to build your linked family tree back at least 4 generations. You need to turn on 2-step verification or link your accounts to sign in with Apple or Google for extra security. And you need to be subscribed to either AncestryDNA Plus or an Ancestry Family History membership. And as you make changes, it can take up to about 48 hours for ThruLines to appear. So that's how you get ThruLines to appear. So now we're back to Ancestry, and we're going to look at my dad's ThruLines. And to get there, I go to DNA and then ThruLines, and I was able to use this little drop down and type in somebody's name to get to my dad. And I'm using him because his parents are deceased, and so I don't have to privatize things like I would for myself. Let's look at some of what you can see on this page. First of all, this used to be where you could filter things, but now this goes to other things that are not ThruLines. Instead, if you want to filter, we're going to come over here right below where I'm talking, and you can click filter. Right now, it's got all ancestors, meaning both my dad's side and his mom's side. We could focus on just potential ancestors. Those are people we do not already have in our tree, but Ancestry and ThruLines are predicting might belong in our tree. We can have only those ancestors who are in our linked tree, so this tree that my dad is attached to. So these are people that are already in the tree, or we can just see his mom's ancestors or just his dad's. We're going to leave it at all. And I'm going to scroll down and show you, you can see his 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and then second great, third great, fourth great, and it goes up to 5th great-grandparents, and that's where it stops. Now we can see 2 different types of boxes here. Let's stop right here. We have some boxes that are white, like Michael Quigley and Fronia Klein, and those are people who are already on my tree. It has information about them, and it has some type of image, whether it's an image, here's a document that I put on there, or if I have no documents to show or any pictures, it's showing either a pink person or a blue person like here. Now, if it's somebody who's not on my tree, it's marked as a potential ancestor. It has the dashed line around their box, and it says in green, potential ancestor. So those are very easy to see, these 3 people right here. Also, sometimes instead, there's a green person if there's no document to add. So we have some of those. That's the basics of what we see on this front screen. But we're also, I'm going to scroll up a bit. Let's go to great-great-grandparents. If you hover over any person, you can see how many matches it's showing connected to that person. This is my dad's great-great-grandfather, John Quiggle Stewart. There are 11 DNA matches between 9 and 3,471 centimorgans that it's showing are DNA matches to my dad and that have this John Quiggle Stewart on their tree, or that it has pieced together connections to that tree. And we can click on this to see who those matches are. So here is my dad's ThruLines for John Quiggle Stewart. And first we have under Alexander Stewart, which is our direct ancestor, my dad's great-grandfather, there are 8 DNA matches. These are really me and my siblings and my dad and his siblings and people directly descended from Alexander. But also John had a daughter, Sarah, and there's 2 DNA matches under Sarah. And then John had a daughter, Ella, and there is 1 DNA match, Denise, and this is showing that there's 2 people we're not seeing. So I'm going to click on it, and we can see those 2 pieces that were not shown. So this is the relationship view. It's showing John Quiggle Stewart and 3 of his children. Now, John, very likely, and he did have more children, but these are the only connections that it found DNA matches. And again, that does not mean this is how, for example, Denise is related to my dad. Instead, it's saying Denise is a DNA match to my dad, and they found a potential connection, but it could be the wrong connection. The other way to look at this is through the list view. I'm going to click on list. And now we see the same information, just in a different format. We see our direct line, Alexander. So we're not going to click on the 8 matches because they're not privatized. But if we go to another match, this is Sarah or Sadie Mae Stewart and her line. There's 2 matches under that. So I'm going to click on them. And we clicked on Sarah Sadie Stewart and we see these 2 matches. Allison, who shares 27 centimorgans with my dad, and Mark, who shares 9. I'm not even going to worry about the 9 right now, but we can look at Allison and look at her potential relationship and her tree. It shows she has a tree here with 391 people. Let's click on View Relationship. So let's look at this relationship. It's saying that they think my dad, JRS, is related to Allison, that they're half third cousins. So third cousins share great-great-grandparents. So here's a great-great-grandparent, and they're the same generational level. And this is the way it thinks that they could be related. Let's look at Allison's tree and see if she shows this connection also. So I'm going to click on this. And now we're looking at her tree. And we see that she does go back to John Quiggle Stewart and this daughter, Sarah. Now, often these half relationships are incorrect because it's just dealing with one half of the equation. But in this case, John Quiggle Stewart, my dad's great-great-grandfather, did have 2 different wives. And we descend through one wife, and this is through the other wife. So this is a half relationship. And so this looks pretty likely. In fact, as I look around at her tree, I don't see any other connections that I think are likely, and this makes sense. The other thing to do to check this out is to look at shared matches and look at those notes and look at those people and see if they're also connected through the Stewart part of my dad's tree. So let's take a look. Now, since Allison only shared 1 segment of 27 centimorgans, it's not surprising she doesn't have a lot of shared matches, but we do have a few, and I skipped the high matches like me and my siblings, my uncles, and all of those. But we get down to here, we have a Denise, who I've already figured out was also a descendant of John Q. Stewart and Sarah Watson, which is the spouse that we're descended from. And then here we have Kim, who if you go back another generation, this is where Kim is through that Stewart part. And so I'm comfortable that this through line is probably correct, that Allison appears to be related to us through John Q. Stewart. So this is a good through lines. So we're back to through lines in that list view, and I've opened up the matches for Sarah and for Ella. And again, we're going to just forget about Mark for now. But Allison is the one we just looked at. The other match is Denise, the person that we found. So Denise and Allison are also sharing DNA with each other. It's supporting evidence that Allison and Denise are actually related to my dad through John Quiggle Stewart. Now I hope you have a better understanding of what through lines are and how to access them and how to get the most out of them. I hope you'll join me for part 2, where I'm going to look at some specific case studies in my family, showing you when through lines are correct and when they're not so correct. So I'll leave a link above and I'll leave a link below, and I hope you'll join me. Please like and subscribe. And I also have a newsletter that you can follow along with what's going on and join me in YouTube's community. Hope to see you soon.